This has intensified backlash and shifted criticism from disappointment to moral condemnation in some corners of her fandom. How Minaj compares to other rappers politically. Hip-hop has historically leaned toward progressive politics, particularly on issues of race, policing, and economic inequality. While the genre has never been monolithic, mainstream rap culture has largely favored Democratic candidates in recent election cycles. Artists such as Cardi B, Thee Stallion, Lizzo, and others actively campaigned for Kamala Harris in 2024. Their appearances at rallies and voter engagement events reinforced hip-hop's alignment with Democratic causes. Minaj now occupies a far smaller, more controversial group of rappers who have aligned themselves with Trump, including Kanye West, Lil Wayne, and Kodak Black. In each case, their support generated significant backlash alongside praise. What distinguishes Minaj is the depth of her prior association with progressive fan communities, making her shift feel more destabilizing. Nicki Minaj's identity and the politics of perception. Nicki Minaj's background complicates the conversation further. Born in Trinidad and Tobago and raised in Queens, New York, she has often referenced her immigrant roots when discussing identity, opportunity, and resilience. Trinidad's population itself is ethnically diverse, with Afro-Caribbean, Indo-Caribbean, and mixed heritage communities, a complexity Minaj has acknowledged in the past. For critics, this history makes her support of restrictive immigration policies difficult to reconcile. For supporters, it proves that identity does not dictate ideology. Either way, Minaj's case highlights the tension between representation and political alignment in celebrity culture. Is Nicki Minaj a Republican? The language versus the reality. Technically, Nicki Minaj has not registered herself as a Republican publicly, nor has she formally announced party affiliation. She does not appear at events wearing campaign merch or calling herself a party loyalist. But politics is not defined solely by labels. In practice, Minaj praises Trump and his administration, amplifies pro-administration content, participates in conservative events, pushes messaging aligned with MAGA priorities. For many observers, these actions speak louder than party registration forms. Cultural impact beyond politics. The implications of Minaj's political pivot extend beyond elections. Brands, collaborators, and industry partners now face decisions about association. Fan communities are renegotiating their relationship with her art. Critics are reassessing her legacy, not just musically, but culturally. At the same time, conservative commentators have embraced Minaj as proof that MAGA culture is expanding into spaces once considered unreachable. Whether intentionally or not, Nicki Minaj has become a symbolic figure in the ongoing battle over culture, identity, and political allegiance in America. What happens next? It remains unclear whether Minaj's alignment with Trump will deepen or stabilize at its current level. She may continue engaging politically, or she may pivot again, as she has many times before. What is certain is that the image of Nicki Minaj as politically ambiguous no longer holds. She has chosen a side of the conversation, even if she avoids the label. Final answer: is Nicki Minaj a Trump supporter? Based on her public statements, online behavior, event appearances, and repeated praise of the current administration, Nicki Minaj is functionally a Trump supporter. She may not adopt the Republican label explicitly, but her actions place her firmly within the pro-Trump cultural and political sphere. For fans, critics, and observers alike, this marks one of the most significant and polarizing chapters in her career. Nicki Minaj has never been a stranger to controversy, reinvention, or sharp turns that leave both critics and fans scrambling to keep up. Over the course of her career, she has shifted sounds, personas, aesthetics, and public alliances with an ease that few artists can match. But her latest transformation, one that places her openly praising Donald Trump and his second-term administration, may be her most consequential pivot yet. After delivering an impassioned speech at AmericaFest, a high-profile conservative gathering, Minaj ignited a cultural and political firestorm. Her remarks, which framed the Trump administration as compassionate, strong, and patriotic, sent shockwaves through her fan base and the broader entertainment industry. For an artist long embraced by progressive audiences, immigrant communities, and LGBTQ+ fans, the moment felt jarring, and for some, deeply personal. The question now dominating headlines and timelines alike is simple but loaded. Is Nicki Minaj officially a Trump supporter? The answer, while nuanced in language, is increasingly clear in practice. The AmericaFest moment that changed everything. AmericaFest is not a neutral cultural space. Organized by conservative activists, the event has become a major platform for Republican politicians, right-leaning media figures, and influencers aligned with the MAGA movement. When Nicki Minaj appeared on stage there, many assumed her presence would be symbolic or apolitical. That assumption did not last long. Standing before thousands of attendees, Minaj praised the current administration in language rarely heard from mainstream entertainers. She spoke about leadership, strength, and national pride, telling the crowd that the president and vice president were men with heart and soul who made her proud to be American. The applause was thunderous. Online, the reaction was explosive. Within minutes, clips of the speech circulated across X, TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. Some users celebrated her remarks as bold and courageous. Others reacted with disbelief, anger, and grief. For longtime fans, especially those who had found affirmation in Minaj's past support for marginalized communities, the speech felt like a rupture. Why this speech landed so hard? Celebrity political statements are nothing new. Musicians have long used their platforms to endorse candidates, criticize policies, or advocate for social change. What made Minaj's speech so impactful was not just what she said, but who she has been to so many people. For years, Nicki Minaj occupied a unique space in pop culture. A Black immigrant woman who openly discussed her journey from Trinidad to New York. An artist embraced by queer fans for her flamboyance, theatricality, and gender-bending performances. A rapper who often pushed back against conservative norms around sexuality, femininity, and self-expression. Her AmericaFest appearance seemed to invert that image overnight. To critics, it wasn't just a political disagreement, it felt like a betrayal of shared history. Nicki Minaj's earlier political identity. To understand why this shift feels so dramatic, it's important to revisit Minaj's earlier political positions. During Donald Trump's first term, Minaj was openly critical of his administration. She expressed concern about immigration policies, particularly the separation of children from their parents at the southern border. In interviews and social media posts, she spoke about her own experience as an immigrant child and questioned how policies that harm migrant families could be justified. At that time, Minaj's views aligned more closely with Democratic rhetoric on immigration and human rights. While she never branded herself as a party loyalist, her critiques of Trump placed her firmly outside the MAGA camp. That context is what makes her current rhetoric so striking. The gradual shift, how Minaj's politics began to change. Minaj's political transformation did not happen overnight. Rather, it unfolded gradually across months of online engagement, reposts, and subtle endorsements. Observers first noticed changes when she began sharing Trump-related memes that framed him humorously or positively, reposting clips of Trump speaking at rallies, often paired with her own music, interacting publicly with Vance, who responded enthusiastically. These moments initially seemed playful or ironic to some fans, but over time, the pattern became harder to dismiss. Minaj began amplifying messaging that aligned closely with conservative talking points, including narratives around religious persecution abroad, immigration enforcement, cultural opposition to transgender participation in youth sports. Each repost, comment, or thank you added another brick to a growing perception that Minaj was no longer merely flirting with conservative imagery, she was embracing it. Vance and the online feedback loop. A key figure in this shift has been Vice President Vance. The two have engaged in a public back and forth that blends politics, pop culture, and social media theatrics. Vance has praised Minaj directly, reposted her content, and even waded into her long-running feud with Cardi B by declaring his preference for Minaj. That comment alone generated massive engagement, reigniting fan wars while simultaneously cementing Minaj's place within pro-Trump online ecosystems. This relationship has functioned as a feedback loop. Minaj posts content favorable to the administration, conservative figures amplify it. Official or semi-official accounts reuse her music and imagery. Minaj reposts that content, further signaling approval. The cycle has blurred the line between celebrity endorsement and political collaboration. The White House's embrace of Nicki Minaj. The Trump administration has not been subtle in its response. Official and affiliated accounts have used Nicki Minaj tracks and promotional TikToks, circulated stylized videos featuring administration figures set to her music, highlighted her statements as evidence of cultural crossover. In one particularly notable moment, Minaj was invited to participate in an event connected to a U.S. mission at the United Nations. For critics, this invitation symbolized her transition from pop star observer to active participant in political messaging. For supporters, it represented validation and influence. Why the Barbz are so divided? Nicki Minaj's fanbase, the Barbz, is one of the most passionate, organized, and digitally powerful fandoms in music. It is also notably diverse, with strong representation from LGBTQ+ communities, young listeners, and people of color. These demographics are statistically more likely to oppose Trump's policies, particularly on immigration, LGBTQ rights, policing, and criminal justice. As Minaj's rhetoric shifted, fractures within the fanbase became visible. Some fans expressed heartbreak, saying her statements felt like an erasure of the very communities that helped build her career. Others accused her of amplifying narratives that harm trans youth and immigrant families. At the same time, a vocal segment of Barbz defended her fiercely, arguing that political disagreement does not negate artistic legacy. Minaj has always been unapologetically independent. The result has been an unusually public fandom schism, with fan accounts declaring exits, rebranding, or doubling down in support. One of the most sensitive flashpoints has been Minaj's engagement with content critical of transgender inclusion in sports. For many LGBTQ+ fans, this issue represents a line that cannot be crossed. Minaj's reposting of administration talking points on this subject without contextual nuance has been interpreted as endorsement of policies she views as discriminatory.